Hello everyone, welcome to the topic 5, lesson 5 video on solving two-step equations. If you recall, in lesson 2 we learned about solving one-step equations, and that meant that there was one thing that was happening to the variable. Well, in this lesson, if you haven't figured it out already, two-step equations, that means that there are going to be two things that are happening to the variable. We have to do two things in order to solve the equation properly. Well, before we get into that, let's do a little review. So if we look down here at these 4 examples, we're just going to look at each equation and then tell me what's happening to the variable, and then tell me what I would need to do to solve each equation. So k plus 4 equals 19. I can see the variable is k, and I can see that right now there is being 4 added to that k. So in order for me to solve that equation, I would need to do the inverse or the opposite of adding 4, which of course is to subtract 4 on both sides. Second one here, q minus 5 and 6/10 equals 17 and 1/10. I can see next to the q that they are subtracting 5 and 6/10. Therefore, in order for me to solve this equation correctly, I would need to add 5 and 6/10 to both sides to find the value of q. The third one, a over 2. Remember, when we see anything that's written like this, where there's a variable over another number, that means to divide. So this is, I can see that the a is being divided by 2. And in order for me to solve that, I would need to do the inverse of dividing by 2, which would be to multiply by 2 on both sides of the equation to find the value of a. In our last example, 4m equals 32. Remember, when you have a number next to a variable like that, that means to multiply. So we read that as 4 times something equals 32. So I can see the 4 is being the m is being multiplied by 4. And in order for me to solve that equation, I would need to do the opposite of multiplying by 4, which would be divide by 4. If we scroll down to the next section here that I'm going to put in blue, we can see some examples of two-step equations. And in the two-step equation, you should be able to see that there are two things happening mathematically inside the equation, which means we're going to have to do the inverse of two things to solve. So if we look at the example 2m minus 5 equals 20, remember when we have 2m, that means that 2 is being multiplied by m, or m is being multiplied by 2, so that is a times 2 situation. And I can also see that there is a minus 5 happening there as well. I'm not really sure what happened to my highlight there. Which means in order for us to solve this equation correctly, we would have to divide by 2 at some point and add 5. If we look at the second example, c over 3 plus 6 equals 12. Remember that the variable over a number means to divide by 3. So I see dividing by 3. And I also see adding 6. I would need to do the opposite of both those things in order to solve the equation correctly. So at some point I would need to multiply by 3 and also subtract 6. Look at the last example, 4b over 2. Again, understanding that 4b means b multiplied by 4, so I can see that there's a times 4, and that term is over 2, which is divided by 2. Which means at some point I'm going to do the opposite of each of those, which means I'm going to have to divide by 4 and multiply by 2. Let's go ahead and look at how we were going to solve these two-step equations. The first thing we need to do is we're going to need to isolate the variable term by doing the inverse. Remember, inverse meaning the opposite of what we see happening to that term. The second thing we're going to have to do is to use the inverse of what is happening to the variable to get it equal to the value of 1. So we're going to use the same examples as above, and we're going to solve them the proper way, all right? So 2m minus 5 equals 20. The variable term is 2m, and I can see that 2m is being subtracted by 5. So I need to do the opposite of subtracting 5 there, which of course would be add 5. And I'm going to need to add 5 to both sides of the equation. So I'm going to add 5 on the left side of the equal sign. I'm going to add 5 on the right side of the equal sign. And just like our one-step equations, the minus 5 and the plus 5 are going to cancel each other out. That leaves me with 2m on the left-hand side of the equation. And then on the other side, I have 20 plus 5, which of course we know is 25. Once we've done that, we're back to a situation where I have a one-step equation. 2m, right, meaning 2 times m, or m times 2 equals 25. So I have to do the opposite of multiplying by 2. And in that case, the opposite of multiplying by 2, or the inverse, is to divide by 2. I'm going to do that on both sides so we stay balanced. And similar to our one-step equations earlier in the topic, my 2's are going to cancel, leaving me with m. And I have 25 divided by 2, which of course is 12.5. So the solution for the value of m in this example is going to be 12.5 or 12.5. If we look at c divided by 3 plus 6 equaling 12, right away the variable term c over 3, I can see that it is having 6 added to it. So I need to subtract 6 from that side. I'm going to subtract 6 on the other side as well. 6 minus 6 is going to cancel out, leaving me with c over 3, c divided by 3 equaling 12 minus 6, which of course is 6. And then I need to get the variable c to be equal to 1. So in this case, I see dividing by 3. So I'm going to do the inverse of that, which would be to multiply this left side by 3. To keep it balanced, I'm going to come to the right side and multiply it by 3. The 3's are going to cancel each other out, leaving me with c. And then on the right-hand side, I have a math problem of 6 times 3, which of course is 18. So the value of c, or the solution to this equation, is 18. C has to be equal to 18. If we look at the last example over here on the far right, 4b divided by 2 equals 10. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. And you will see that this will allow my 4b to be isolated on the left-hand side. If I do this correctly, the 2's are going to cancel. That leaves me with the 4b by itself. Over on the right-hand side, we have 10 times 2, which of course is 20. And now I'm back at a one-step equation. For this one-step equation, I see 4 times b equaling 20. So I'm going to have to divide both sides by 4. 4 b's divided into 4 equal groups is going to leave me with 1b. 20 divided by 4, of course, is 5. So the solution to that equation is b equaling 5. All right, we can go ahead and scroll down to the second page and try these 9 practice problems on your own. You can unpause the video when you are done to check your work. Make sure you are applying all of your rules from topic 1 and topic 2 when you're solving the equations. If you have any questions, please make sure you speak up and ask. All right, here are your answers for the 9 practice problems. Please make sure you understand what is happening for each problem. If you get stuck, please make sure you ask for help so we can clarify anything that you might not be understanding. Some of these problems are really, really intricate. It's going to be super, super important that you understand how to work with fractions and decimals. That's why we spent so much time in topic 0, topic 1, and topic 2, focusing on those basic skills, because solving equations, as you can see, is going to require you to be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with whole numbers, fractions, decimals, mixed numbers, and improper fractions. Please make sure you double check everything that you are doing. And again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.